As someone who's reviewed hundreds of actors, today let's deeply compare Leonardo DiCaprio's first role at 11 years old versus his newest at 49 years old. And throughout the video, I'll also explain secret acting techniques he picked up along his career, and by the end of the video, we'll be able to measure the shocking amount somebody can improve when given the world's best acting classes, acting teachers, and overall environment. Now, when talking about DiCaprio's first ever role at the age of 15, many of you may expect a low quality performance, but as you'll see shortly, Leonardo was born to act from the beginning. Let's take a look at his first appearance in The New Lassie so I can explain why. Firstly, it's shocking to say, but this early in his career, Leo was making great use of a powerful acting method known as beats, defined as a pause in your dialogue to build importance on what you're gonna say or do next.
A simple choice. Do you want to share victory with your friends or enjoy defeat by yourself?
But the interesting thing is, as you can see, the rest of his friends do it too, but when they pause, they simply stare out at nothing for a couple seconds and then return to their dialogue. While on the other hand, with young Caprio, in the middle of his beat/pause, he's already also changing his posture, which doubles the effect of this beat. But now, before we move on to Grandpa Leo at 49 years old and see if he actually made big improvements in his acting, let's quickly touch on another fantastic acting technique he used at 15 years old that literally just blew me away. Look at me, look at me. It blew me up. Let's talk about young Leo's micro expressions. In acting, there are two ways an actor can act out an emotion. Firstly, and the more common one, you can simply use macro expression, which means showing the obvious full range of expression. For example, if I'm your director and I'm like, hey buddy, act sad, and you simply just break down and start crying, that's a macro expression because it's the most simple and basic way to show sadness. And although many people get by using this method, Leonardo was something different. Leonardo clearly understood human psychology and the beauty of subtle acting, which brings us to method number 2, where an actor instead uses micro expressions by simply tweaking slight parts of their face, which in turn brings out a much more realistic and natural sad or happy whatever emotion. So here, when young Leo is told to act out a realization scene, because here his character finds out how to win the race, instead of a typical child's reaction like, hey guys, wait guys, what if hey guys, instead, all he simply does is drop his eyebrows.
If you had a track shredder like Kyle's, wait a minute.
This subtle micro expression of dropping his eyebrows delivered such a more impactful scene than any big, loud, extravagant reaction could. But now let's really answer the main question. How much can an already pretty good actor improve in 34 years, now at 49 years old, when given the best acting education Hollywood has to offer? Well, let's answer that question by looking at his newest movie, The Killers of the Flower Moon. Let's examine this specific scene where his character poisons his wife, Millie. Right away, I can already pick up on this brand new technique he just learned known as inner monologue. If you pay really close attention to this scene, sure, you can point out the obvious expressions that show disgust that she'd even accuse him of poisoning her, such as the lower lip heavily protruding, his eyes squinting back down, but more importantly, the really talented part here, look at this real-time 10-second pause in the scene where no words are being spoken, but so much is being said internally. His acting has gotten to a point where you can see what he's thinking inside of his mind. How should I lie to her? How should I craft up my story? Should I lie to my wife? Should I admit the truth? So sure, the blonde 15-year-old knew how to pause before saying a word. Big deal. But I can certainly tell you, he wasn't thinking this deep into acting before. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, stop. It doesn't stop there. Let's take it a step further. Let's talk about his even bigger improvement that truly brought Leonardo to a tier only a select few actors make it to. And let's talk about this improvement by asking you a question. Now, everybody get comfortable and just listen. Have you guys ever wondered how actors get a script full of written word and dialogue and somehow they already know the emotion and movement they pair with it? If a script literally said, your character gets punched in the face and then you show sadness, how do I know what type of sadness to show? Am I supposed to be like angry sad? Am I supposed to be crying? Am I supposed to be like subtly sad? And as you may have guessed, Leonardo is the master of this ability. And we can see how he pulls it off by skipping 10 minutes back in the movie where he finds out his child died. Now, the very crazy part is the script of this movie simply states Hal hears Ernst crying and moaning in loss. That's all the script said. But how did Leo as Ernst take these words and know exactly what type of cry to deliver? How does he know to fall onto the cement floor in the scene? Because once again, the script had no mention of it. And to answer this, ladies and gents, let me introduce you to the Stanislavaksi technique. Now, the Stanislavaksi technique was originated from Konstantin Stanislavaski, a Russian director born in 1863. 1963. To keep things short, it basically teaches actors to jot down exactly everything they know about the character they're playing. Even very specific things such as the environment they live in, their relationships with one another, their love life, if they're subscribed to Kosher Reacts. If you're not subscribed to me yet, by the way, make sure you subscribe, sweetheart. Now. Anyways, the reason these actors jot down these specific things is because now if they're told to act out a specific moment, such as being sad, they aren't simply being sad in the moment. They are diving into how the character would feel in the moment, what the scene itself means for the character, and after understanding all of that, they are pulling from that emotion.
He advocated for a complete immersion into the character's psyche, which would then project a more believable and engaging performance.
Leo embodied what a person would feel like if their child died and he found out in prison, and that's what he brung out, which made him falling over, his very realistic scream, simply a natural thing that came out.
God bless you, son. Sorry for your loss.
Now, when directly comparing this transformation between these roles 34 years apart, there's two things we must talk about that aren't even related to acting, but heavily impact his acting skill. The first one is very positive, and the second one is pretty controversial. Firstly, as his face got older, his face got wrinklier. Okay, but the surprising reason this actually ties into the whole thing, a wrinklier face is actually a better face for acting. Not 96-year-old grandma level where if she just moves a little bit wrong, her entire body breaks, but around the 35 to 65-year-old range. And let me explain why. When 15-year-old Leonardo Dicaprio was told to smile, we would see wide pearly teeth and curved lips. I mean, because that's all a 15-year-old face has. Now fast forward to a 40-plus-year-old Leo, when he smiles, due to the magical power of aging, other things start to appear, such as visible smile lines all throughout your face and deep, big crow's feet. And these lines, even though many people frown on them, give a lot more meaning and power behind the face, which has unintentionally made every emotion old Grandpa Leo shows on his face 36 times more powerful than this young 15-year-old blondie. And lastly, when we touch on the controversial side, let's talk about the source of his transformation. Sure, you guys have picked up, but even in the intro, I said this specific line. By the end of the video, we'll be able to measure the shocking amount somebody can improve when given the world's best overall environment. Although this was an amazing, beautiful transformation, and we see all these techniques he's learned, he wouldn't be able to do it if he wasn't Leonardo in Hollywood, if he wasn't Leonardo booking with the best acting coaches, with the best acting classes in the best Hollywood environments. And overall, I just thought it was a very unique point to bring up at the end, just to tell you guys, no matter how much hard work you put in, and I really believe in every single one of you, please make sure you put yourself in the right spots. Perhaps Leo learned the Stanislavaksi technique from a random director in a Hollywood movie 10 years ago. Maybe he learned how to pause and have inner monologue from another cast member 6 years ago. And I say all this to ask you guys one final grand question. Can an ordinary person, without moving to Hollywood, without having top-notch acting classes, achieve this level of talent with simply practice?
What?